We now have a story that made international headlines over the weekend out of the relatively calm, nice city of Vancouver, British Columbia. It all started with a Trans Day of Visibility because, you know, Lord knows transgender individuals have really been hiding in the shadows lately. They haven't had much visibility at all, have they? And there were a couple of people who wanted to come and witness and maybe even voice an alternate opinion. And, well, let's take it from there. Here's video number one.
You know what you are right now? You're that f***ing It's like, keep the blood kids out of the pool. That's exactly what you are.
Oh, hi. Friendly people here already.
You are absolutely...
Please don't push me. Thank you.
Don't touch me.
I'm just coming to my friends here.
Buddy, don't touch me.
Don't get in my way. You don't have the right to stop me.
Absolutely don't touch me.
Oh, here we go. I'm getting painted on already. Been here 5 seconds. And I'm already getting assaulted.
Yeah,
Oh,
there it
I love
is.
it.
That got kind of violent, kind of fast. And the target of that violence, the person who was actually operating that camera, you know him. That was that mild-mannered, nice guy, Billboard Chris Elston, who's just a concerned dad who dares to say that children can't consent to puberty blockers. Chris, thanks for joining us. You look a little marked up there.
Yeah, I've got a little shiner forming here and got a cut on my nose from that. The cut on my nose is from that first incident, which happened within 5 seconds of me arriving there. I saw my friend Pierre. He was surrounded by these hostile people, so I just was actually going to go say hi and actually back up out of there because I know there's no point talking to these people.
Yeah.
And immediately within seconds I got assaulted, so there were no police there yet. So I called the police, who arrived within minutes, and then the biggest farce ever in the history of policing ensued.
Yeah, listen, part of the reason why this has made international headlines, as you know, Chris, is because of the reaction of the police or lack thereof. We're going to get to that a little later. I want to talk about the confrontation first, though. You know, these people, they've all got masks on. They come right up to you. They start pushing against you. Down here in the States, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's been taking a lot of heat for using the word trans-tifa. But boy, this looks like the perfect example of that description.
Oh, trans activists, these trans activists and Antifa are one and the same. They're all the same. They even have flags with the Antifa logo on it. One of those was there yesterday.
Yeah.
So
and
there's no difference between them.
You're from Canada. You've been to many of these. I mean, did you recognize any of these people as sort of the regular cast of characters at these protests?
Well, they always wear masks, so it's kind of hard to say, but
right.
I've been dealing with some of these people off and on for 2.5 years. All the way back in October of 2020 was the first time they assaulted me, and I was arrested after getting assaulted. This is all on camera.
Yeah.
All I'd done was walk peacefully in a public square. Police told me I shouldn't do that. I said, "Are you kidding me? This is Canada. Are you saying I can't walk freely just because I have signs people don't like?" And this one officer said, "This is a safe space."
Safe space.
Which is code for safe for them, not safe for me. And after I got assaulted with 2 hammer fists to my chest, I got arrested immediately, handcuffed, taken to jail, charged with causing a disturbance. And I was banned from walking in all these streets in the middle of Vancouver for about 6 months until the Crown prosecutor threw out the charge against me.
It's crazy and enraging and clearly an ongoing problem, because right after that assault, things started to calm down a little bit. And I think you said you called the police when that happened?
I did.
All right,
Yeah.
and then let's pick it up from there, because this next video shows basically one of the individuals there interviewing you about what just happened.
Incredible thing has been the behavior of the police here today.
The cops didn't ride your
They don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
She thought it was a joke. She thought it was...
Well, and I know so many cops who love
She didn't even want to look at your video. When she did look at
Yeah.
it, she later said
Let's jump in here, because you can see, Chris, you're suffering from that knock you got on your nose. You're talking about what the police response was, and they're all still surrounding you and sort of agitating you. Mm-hmm. But we have what happened next from a different angle, which I think is quite vivid. So let's pick it up. This is the same moment with a different camera.
Why do you think they're getting that kind of representation? I mean, it's clearly was aggressive violence.
You suck. You suck. You. You're not wanted. You're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking
I don't know what to say. These police officers are mostly indoctrinated as well.
Everyone here
They're afraid of the mob.
because you're a fucking idiot.
I They're afraid if they do anything, keep law and order.
You.
They'll the end of this use. So it's cowardice for all around.
People probably want. How do you keep your composure?
What's
How do you keep composure?
nothing?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And of course, for our viewers at home, that was just a whole lot of beeps, but you can read lips and you know exactly what they were saying. What you didn't hear, the interviewer right there, amidst all the profanity, was asking you how you keep your composure, which is rather ironic. You did keep your composure through all of that, and the guy on your right there pushed right against you. Everybody saw him. He pushed his body up against you, got literally in your face, and you just tried to clear a little space, and that's when he went for your throat.
Yeah, one of those shouts actually hurt my ear because he's just a few inches away and he's screaming at the top of his lungs.
Yeah.
I'm allowed a little space. Am I supposed to have these people climbing on top of me before I request a little space here? I didn't even push them. It was just a hand up like, hey, I need a little space.
That's right.
And I actually wanted to walk out of there, but I have nowhere to go. And the police. So at this point, there are
Yeah, we can see the
14
police right there in the background. They're watching. Some of them are even smiling as they watch this whole thing. They seem amused by it, Chris.
The first officer that arrived, Constable Frederick Buckman, she's the investigating officer. She's smiling throughout. And it turns out on her social media, she's liking posts related to Transgender Day of Visibility.
Oh.
And she was even liking someone's post who was laughing about this incident, saying if he'd been there, he would have been rolling on the floor laughing his butt off.
And that's the constable on the scene. Like I said, the police response here is its whole other story. But this moment, when they get in your face like that and then go for your throat and you ended up on the ground, what is that where you got that additional black eye there? Did the sign hit you?
Yeah, so there's, with his right arm, he throat punched me. With his left, it might be tough to see from that angle, but there was like a left hook to my face. That's what caused the shiner.
Wow.
And then he pulled on me, and then the other guy pushed me from behind. So,
oh yeah, you can totally see that left hook there. Yeah. Absolutely. So this is a brawl. This is an obvious physical assault. And again, I just want to point out this is supposed to be Trans Day of Visibility. I mean, is this the visibility they wanted? Because this is the visibility they got.
These people have only one means of achieving their goals, and it's violence to silence. They cannot have a conversation about any of this. I have intelligent, fact-based, compassionate conversations about what's going on with these kids. I want people to learn the truth about what's happening. I stay calm all the time. I've got this down to a science. But what these activists always do is they either use violence or they just shout in my ear. They'll blow whistles in my ear. That happened to me for 45 minutes straight at Vancouver Pride last year. I've had university students come out of their dorm rooms with bed sheets that they hold up around me so that people can't even see me.
Yeah.
Sometimes people try to talk to me. During this protest, someone tried to talk to me from their side of things. And right away, someone got in their face and said, no, you can't talk to them. That's always what happens. Any conversation reduces their ideology. It just causes the whole thing to crumble. So they just try to avoid it at all costs.
And Chris Elston, let's be clear, you can see the part of the sign that you're wearing. All it says is children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Your argument is not with this person per se. That person can live their life they want to. It's all about children. It's all about parents being involved in the discussion with children and making sure that doctors aren't abusing children or the government isn't abusing children by harming their bodies and mutilating their bodies, right? That's the entirety of your argument.
That's right. We shouldn't be stopping the development of a healthy child. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Think about this for a second. These drugs, these puberty blocker drugs, for the doctors watching, these are gonadotropin-releasing hormone agonists. That's a technical term. And what they do is they end up stopping the release of testosterone in boys and estrogen in girls. That's what causes our bodies to develop during puberty.
Yeah.
None of those things happen.
Hold that thought.
What are we doing?
We have a hard break here. I want to further discuss that, but then also show everybody the police response in Vancouver. Canada is, I'm afraid, almost lost to us at this point. We're going to continue with Chris Elston, Billboard Chris, billboardchris.com in just a moment. Continuing now with Chris Elston, Billboard Chris, and I want to give you the website again, billboardchris.com, because you can support his work, support his activism, and I suspect, Chris, there might be actually a legal component to this too after what we just witnessed.
Yeah, I think there should be a civil suit with the assaulters. I think there should be a lawsuit against the Vancouver Police Department. So I've already been in contact with a lawyer.
Good.
And we'll figure out what we can do. And in addition, I need to submit complaints through their own process with the police commissioner and everything. But this is just a failure to protect me. What if that person, instead of punching me in the throat, had a knife?
Right.
I'd be dead right now.
Right, 100%.
And 2 separate times I had walked away from the crowd to try to conduct this interview with the independent journalist Dan Dix. And every time they just followed me. And police just watched it all. So there's a failure to protect there. This police officer is saying that I instigated this. She actually told a journalist that I was screaming at people. I recorded
everything's on video
of the whole day.
Everything's
and I'm
on
still
video.
uploading it.
Look at the screaming.
All on video.
We see where the screaming is coming from, and if we could, and again, I just want to reiterate, because you were just talking about puberty blockers and hormones for young children. In some cases, if it's a puberty blocker, clearly it's prepubescent. That's the whole point of blocking puberty. So we're talking about 11-year-old girls. Forgive me, but the person who punches you in the face here in a moment, that person did not have their puberty blocked. That person had the benefit of growing to be a full-grown male and then deciding to transition after puberty.
Yeah, people tend to think of trans as being one thing, but there's different types of trans. There's the whole umbrella. You have these middle-aged men who honestly have this sexual paraphilia where they get aroused by the idea of being a woman, and so they transition for that purpose. That's totally different than what's happening with kids, and what's going on with kids is my issue, because it's about 2 or 3 to 1 now, girls versus boys who are transitioning, and these girls are just having a tough time in life. And guess what? If a child doesn't conform to sexist regressive stereotypes, that's fine. That doesn't mean they're born in the wrong body. That's an extremely abusive thing to teach a kid.
All right, let's go to the police response now. This is a big part of it, because how the government is taking sides, certainly in Canada or in Vancouver, it appears they've taken sides in this argument, and it's not your side, it's not the parent's side. Let's look at what happened after the first assault when you called the police.
And I got here, and within seconds I was surrounded, not allowed to walk freely, pushed. As you can see, my nose is bleeding.
Okay. Let me just get
And I should be allowed in Canada to attend a rally.
Are you not going to listen to him anymore? Okay, I thought you were not going to listen to him anymore.
No, I'm getting out of the car, which is what I said I was doing.
Okay, yeah, just clarifying.
It's Canada. I should be allowed to attend this without getting assaulted.
Well. So, who pushed you? What happened?
Hold on. Let's pause it there for a minute. That's a heck of a reaction. Well, I mean, maybe.
I knew immediately she was going to do nothing. She didn't even get out of the car when she arrived.
Yeah.
So I videoed everything except when I was on the phone to 911, because I couldn't do both simultaneously. So I had just hung up with 911 when I'd gotten to her car, and then I started rolling the camera. And right away she's going, well, should you be able to walk freely without getting assaulted?
Well, help us out here, because, I mean, there is a different application of the First Amendment or freedom of speech. You don't technically have a First Amendment that reflects exactly what the First Amendment is here in America, the freedom of speech. Yeah. Is there sort of a loophole in freedom of speech where a constable like this for the Royal Mounted Police, they could actually interpret it saying, your sign was fighting words, your sign was violence?
No, there's not. And I'm going to read to you, similar to your First Amendment, we have what's called the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I just pulled this up. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms: freedom of conscience and religion, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication, freedom of peaceful assembly, freedom of association. Those are our rights. Now, the problem with Canada, we have this Section 1, which comes immediately preceding those fundamental freedoms. It says, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the rights set out in it, subject to reasonable limits prescribed by law. Who makes the law? Lawmakers.
Right.
So if you have a situation like we have in Canada today with Justin Trudeau and all these radical leftists running the government, well, these fundamental freedoms we have are subject to the whims of lawmakers.
Yeah. And
I still have these rights. I would still win hands down in court.
Oh, absolutely, of course. But you would have to go through an incredibly expensive and tedious battle, but it's certainly worth fighting. Eventually, this police officer was standing there amongst all those other cops when you got assaulted the second time. Then what happened? Because they were able, I saw like 8 or 9 police officers there breaking up the second fight. They saw what happened. Who got arrested?
More than that. At that point, about 40 officers have arrived. They just had kept coming over the 40 minutes.
Okay.
They weren't all looking directly at me, but at least a dozen or 15 were when that assault happened. And what did they do? Nothing.
No arrests made.
They took down, she didn't want to do anything. She reluctantly took down Dan Dix's information. The officer took down my information, and then they did nothing. They pretended like they were starting the investigation and needed our information. As soon as they had our information, I said, so are you going to do anything now? And she goes, nah, I'm just going to keep the peace.
One wonders, because, I mean, Vancouver is sort of, you know, it has a reputation of being San Francisco, Seattle-like in its politics and its temperament. Do you believe that the police are worried about arresting a transgender protester, that they're worried about being the cop that actually handcuffs someone and books them?
100%, Larry. The last thing they want is to be seen handcuffing a trans-identified individual. This goes against the entire narrative that this country and government and everyone are pushing. But
because apparently you're supposed to be tolerant of violence as long as that violence is at the hands of a trans individual.
They're allowed. I got my arm broken in Montreal. It's not just Vancouver police. I got my arm broken in Montreal. I got jumped by 5 or 6 people. And with a traffic cone, the base of the traffic cone, as a man was trying to cave in my skull, I blocked it 4 times, and one of those blocks broke my forearm.
Jeez.
But what happened? The investigator did nothing. He contacted me a month later. He was just starting the investigation. I said, you'd better hurry up because you're going to lose street footage. He called me almost a month after that. Guess what? He'd lost the street footage.
Of course. And
he said there was nothing they could do unless I got them the names of my masked and hooded Antifa attackers. So they just don't want to do anything. These people are known to police. Yeah. I actually had pretty good images of their face in spite of the masks. And obviously these people are known to police, but they want to do nothing about it.
You have footage of all of this. You're still uploading it to your social media accounts and to your main account. We'll look forward to seeing that. Also, I think you said that this police officer in particular, the one who was grinning and smirking the whole time and equivocating your freedoms, you've seen her liking pro-trans social media content, sort of taking sides.
Her Twitter account, which she's now deleted, but I have archives of it, and I posted screenshots and a screen recording of every tweet she'd liked, because she hadn't liked many, only 55 likes. She's liking someone's post laughing about this incident, and she's liking a post about Transgender Day of Visibility. So, you know, I often say the foot soldiers of this movement, honestly, tend to be young white women who are pushing this, the social justice warrior types.
Yep.
They've been indoctrinated through high school and university, and this whole ideology preys on their compassion because they're taught that these kids are just struggling, and this helps them to be who they really are. And this is what the left is so good at. They're so good at switching messaging and flipping it 180 degrees to make something that's evil sound nice. So they call it gender-affirming care.
Right.
Not a childhood sex change. It's top surgery, not a double mastectomy. And the left has been successful in conflating this with gay rights, and they've tricked a lot of the population.
Yep.
But we're going to get the truth out there. We can't lose. We just have to keep having these conversations.
That's right. And you're doing a great job, not just as an activist and an advocate, but also as a citizen journalist now in the great spirit of citizen journalism. Chris Elston, thank you. And thank you for staying on this. BillboardChris.com. More to come.